I used to think rock bottom had a limit until the night I learned it doesn't. My name is Hannah Rivera, and the evening my divorce papers were signed, my parents didn't offer comfort. They didn't even look at me. They simply pointed to the door and said, "Take your bag, and take that boy with you." That boy was Leo, a quiet, frightened child I had taken in when he had nowhere else to go. So there I was, standing in the freezing rain, holding a single bag in one hand and Leo's trembling fingers in the other, with no home, no money, and no family left to turn to. For weeks we drifted from shelters to bus stations, surviving one sleepless night at a time. I thought our story would end there, until the day Leo looked up at me, eyes wide and steady, and whispered, "Hannah, my dad is a billionaire." The rain that night didn't fall, it attacked. Each drop felt like a cold reminder of everything I had just lost. I tightened my grip on Leo's tiny hand as we stepped away from the house that used to be my home, the house where my parents once told me I would always be safe. Now the door was shut. Permanently. "Are we going to be okay, Hannah?" Leo whispered, shivering through his thin hoodie. I forced myself to nod, though my throat burned. "We will, I promise." I couldn't let him feel how terrified I truly was. I had already lost my marriage, my belongings, my stability, but I refused to lose him. We walked through puddles that mirrored streetlights, flickering like dying stars. My shoes squished with every step, my backpack was soaked through, and my hair clung to my face. It was humiliating. It was heartbreaking. But worst of all, it was real. Just hours earlier, I had stood in my parents' living room, dripping rainwater onto their polished hardwood floor while my mother stared at me as if I were a stranger who had wandered in by mistake. "Hannah, we warned you," she said, arms crossed tightly. "You make reckless decisions, and now look. Divorced, jobless, and dragging a homeless child around like he's your responsibility." "She saved me," Leo whispered back then, barely audible. My father scoffed. "That's not our concern. You chose this, Hannah, so deal with it. Somewhere else." When the door slammed shut behind us, I swear the sound carved itself into my bones. Now, trudging through the rain, I felt the weight of that final rejection pressing on my chest like a stone. "Hannah," Leo murmured, tugging my sleeve. "I'm cold." I crouched, cupping his face gently. His cheeks were icy, his lashes wet, but his eyes, big and brown, still trusted me completely. "We'll find a place," I whispered. "Tonight may be hard, but we'll get through it. Together." He nodded and slipped his small hand back into mine, holding on as if I were the only solid thing left in the world. Maybe I was. We walked toward the bus station, the closest building still open this late at night. I didn't know what tomorrow held. I didn't even know where we would sleep. But I knew one thing: no matter how dark things became, I would protect this child. I just didn't know then that he would be the one who saved me. People assume there's always a single defining moment that changes your life. For me, it was a Tuesday afternoon in a crowded hospital waiting room long before the divorce, long before the rain, long before my parents shut their door on me. I had been sitting there holding a folder of legal documents, the fresh sting of betrayal still burning in my chest. My marriage had collapsed long before the papers made it official, but seeing my name beside Mark's under the word divorce felt like a punch I wasn't prepared for. I just wanted to breathe, to sit, to not cry. Then I noticed him. A small boy curled up on one of the plastic chairs across from me, knees tucked to his chest, arms wrapped tightly around them. His clothes were dirty, torn at the hem. His shoes were mismatched. His hair hung over his eyes, but even from a distance, I could see how exhausted he looked. No parent nearby. No bag. No one even glancing his way. I tried to look away. I really did. My life was already falling apart. Why get involved? But when he lifted his head and our eyes met, something inside me cracked. He whispered, almost silently, "I'm not supposed to be here." My heart tightened. I moved to the chair beside him. "Hey, what's your name?" He hesitated, studying my face as if trying to decide whether I was dangerous or safe. Finally, he whispered, "Leo. Where are your parents, Leo?" "I don't know. I lost them." He swallowed hard. "A long time ago." Something about the way he said it, too calm, too practiced, made my skin prickle. A nurse approached us, frowning. "Is he yours?" Before I could answer, Leo gripped my sleeve in a panic. "Don't let them take me away. Please." The desperation in his voice hit me like a blow. I looked at him, truly looked, and saw a child who had been abandoned long before he ever walked into this hospital. So I said the words that would change everything. "He's with me." The nurse nodded and moved on. Leo exhaled a shaky breath, as if he'd been holding fear in his lungs for years. "You don't have to be scared," I said gently. "I won't leave you here alone." He looked at me, eyes glistening. "Everyone leaves." I shook my head. "Not me." We walked out of the hospital together that day, me with a broken marriage and him with a broken past. Neither of us knew how badly we needed each other yet. Over the next weeks, I learned he didn't remember much about where he came from. Flashes of a large house, a black car, people calling someone sir. He didn't know his last name. He didn't know why he'd ended up on the streets. But he knew one thing. "Hannah, you're the only person who sees me." And I knew one thing too. If I let this child go back to the world that had already failed him, I would never forgive myself. So I made the choice that would eventually bring me to my parents' doorstep in the rain. Clutching his hand, I took him in. I fed him. I clothed him. I protected him. Not because I was strong, not because I had anything to give, but because on the day I met Leo, he looked at me with the kind of trust that only a child who has nothing left can give, and I couldn't walk away. If anyone had told me a year earlier that I, once a married woman with a steady job, a small apartment, and a predictable life, would one day be wandering between shelters with a child who wasn't biologically mine, I would have laughed. Or cried. Possibly both. But life doesn't warn you before it unravels. After the hospital, Leo and I carved out a fragile routine. I found a small rental using the last of my savings. I took temporary jobs, mostly clerical work, event cleanup, grocery stocking, nothing steady, nothing that could hold us long term. Still, for a while, it was enough. Every night, Leo would fall asleep curled against my side on an old sofa, mumbling little things like, "Today was a good day, Hannah," or, "I didn't feel invisible today." And every night I promised myself I'd build a life stable enough for him to feel that way forever. But promises don't stop reality from crushing you. The day I lost my last part-time job, everything cracked. I came home with a forced smile, hiding the termination letter in my bag. I tried to act normal, asked Leo about his drawings, about what he wanted for dinner, about nothing important at all. But Leo had a way of sensing things. "Are you sad?" he asked, coloring a picture of a house with a bright yellow window. "Your eyes look different." I looked away. "Just tired." He quietly rested his head on my arm. "I don't need toys or a big room. I just need you." That sentence, it shattered me. A week later, the landlord taped a notice to the door. "Pay everything within 48 hours or vacate." I had nothing left to give. And after 48 hours, nothing left to lose. We packed one bag. Just one. Some clothes, toothpaste, a half-empty box of crackers, and Leo's drawing a little house with 2 stick figures holding hands. Then we left the apartment for good. The first night homeless is indescribable. It's not just fear. It's humiliation. It's uncertainty gnawing at your bones. Leo stayed close as we walked down streets lit by neon signs and silence. We tried the local shelters, but they were overcrowded, families spilling out into hallways, volunteers apologizing with tired eyes. By midnight, we ended up at a 24-hour bus station. We sat on a plastic bench, sticky with spilled soda, surrounded by announcements echoing overhead like hollow reminders that other people had destinations, and we didn't. Leo leaned against me. "Is this our new home?" The question hit me so hard I couldn't breathe. I smoothed his hair. "No, sweetheart. This is just for tonight. Just for tonight." I repeated it so often it felt like a prayer I didn't believe in. Days blurred into survival. During the day, I walked miles searching for jobs. None of them wanted someone with no address. Some didn't want a woman with a child. Others didn't bother to hide their judgment. At night, we bounced between church basements, shelter mats, and sometimes just a corner of a bus stop with a flickering light. Leo rarely complained, but I saw the exhaustion in his eyes. The way he ate slowly, as if trying to make each piece of food last forever. The way he pressed closer whenever someone raised their voice nearby. He'd whisper, "Don't let go of my hand, okay?" "I won't," I always said. But inside, I felt myself cracking under the pressure of not failing him. Every night, after he fell asleep, I let the tears fall silently. Silent. Because I didn't want him to know how scared I really was. Silent. Because I was ashamed I couldn't give him better. Silent. Because I had nobody left to ask for help. And then came the worst moment. A social worker from the shelter pulled me aside. "Hannah, you're caring for him well. But without stable housing, the system might need to step in." My blood went cold. "You mean take him?" "It's not decided yet. But be aware it's a possibility." Leo saw my face pale when I returned. He tugged my sleeve gently. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I lied, forcing a smile. "Let's get some warm food." But that night, when he fell asleep in my lap, he whispered, "You won't leave me, right?" "I'll never leave you," I said, holding him tighter. But for the first time, I feared someone else might take him away, and I had no idea how wrong or right that fear was. Soon, Leo would reveal something that would forever change our fate. It happened on a night that felt no different from the others, cold, uncertain, and heavy with the kind of silence that presses on your lungs. Leo and I were sitting under the awning of a closed cafe, sharing a cup of instant noodles a volunteer had given us earlier. The air smelled faintly of rain and exhaustion. Leo stared at the steam rising from the cup, quiet in a way that made my heart tighten. "Are you feeling sick, sweetheart?" I asked. He shook his head slowly. "Hannah, I remembered something." I blinked. "Something from before?" Leo nodded, gripping the warm cup with both hands as though he needed its heat to stay steady. "My dad," he whispered. "I remember my dad." My breath caught. Leo almost never mentioned his past voluntarily. "What do you remember?" I asked gently, bracing myself. He hesitated, then lifted his eyes big, brown, frightened, and certain. He was important. People listened to him. They called him Sir. And we lived in a big house, really big, with shiny floors, and a room just for my books. My pulse quickened. "Do you remember his name?" Leo scrunched his brows, digging through forgotten memories. "I think it was Carter. His last name. Carter." My heart thudded. Carter wasn't a common name. And the only Carter I'd ever heard spoken with that much reverence belonged to one man. A man whose face regularly appeared on business magazines and financial news. A man with a net worth so large people whispered it like mythology. Still, I didn't speak the name. I didn't want to scare him. Or myself. "And the house?" I asked softly. "Do you remember where it was?" Leo closed his eyes, concentrating. There were tall buildings outside the window, and a black car, a really big one. Dad used to leave in it every morning. I felt my stomach twist. These weren't scraps from a homeless child drifting through shelters. These were memories of a life soaked in privilege. Leo took a shaky breath, then added something that made the world tilt around me. He told someone once that he owned a company, a big one, and that he was, what's the word? He frowned, searching. Bill, something. "Billionaire?" I whispered. Leo's eyes lit up. "Yes, that." He said it like it was normal, like it was just who he was. A long, cold silence wrapped around us. I didn't know if I should laugh, cry, or run. A billionaire. Leo's father, a billionaire? It sounded impossible, fantastical. Like a child mixing dreams with old memories. But Leo wasn't smiling. He wasn't playing. He wasn't imagining. He was remembering. I swallowed hard. "Leo, if your father is really who you think he is, then he must be looking for you. He must miss you." Leo shook his head quickly, fear flashing across his face. No, he didn't find me for so long. Maybe he didn't want me anymore. Maybe he forgot me." My chest ached. I cupped his cheeks gently. "Sweetheart, no parent forgets their child. Something happened. Something big. And if your dad truly has the kind of power you're describing, then finding him could change everything. It could get us a home, a real life, safety." Leo stared at me, uncertain. "Do you really think he wants me?" I nodded, even though I wasn't entirely sure, because hope was a fragile flame, and I couldn't let his go out. "We'll try to find him," I promised softly. "Whoever he is, whatever he is, we'll find him." Leo's small fingers tightened around mine. "Okay, but Hannah." "Yes? If my dad is rich, does that mean someday I'll have to leave you?" The question hit like a blade to my heart. I forced a trembling smile. Let's not think about that right now. Let's just think about finding the truth. Leo nodded, leaning against me. That night, long after he fell asleep in my lap, I whispered to myself, a billionaire father, if it's true, what does that make me now? A caretaker? A savior? Or someone standing in the way? For the first time since meeting Leo, I felt something unexpected. Fear. Not of losing him, but of what finding his father might mean. I didn't know it then. But this revelation was only the first tremor before the earthquake. For the next several days, I lived inside public libraries and community centers, the only places where computer access didn't cost money. I typed the same keywords repeatedly. Carter, billionaire. Carter, missing child. Carter, CEO family. Each new article, each photo, each headline made my pulse quicken. There he was, Elliot Carter. The man Leo might be remembering. Square jaw, silver-streaked hair. The posture of someone who commanded entire boardrooms with a single look. His name topped business magazines, Forbes, Fortune, The Wall Street Journal. I stared at his picture, then at Leo's sleeping face, and something inside me tightened. Could a boy who fell asleep beside vending machines truly be the son of this man? I clicked on a detailed profile. Elliot Carter, founder of Carter Technologies, father of one son presumed lost. My breath hitched. There it was. A single line that changed everything. His son, Liam Carter, had disappeared 2 years ago. Kidnapping suspected. Case gone cold. Carter had poured millions into private investigators but never found him. I felt the ground tilt. Because the boy in the picture, the boy wearing a tiny bow tie and a shy smile, looked exactly like Leo, I whispered, almost to myself. Oh my God. Leo, you really are him. That evening when Leo finished his dinner, a shared cup of soup from the shelter's kitchen, I sat beside him. Sweetheart, I said softly, do you remember your first name, before Leo? He frowned, concentrating. Maybe, Liam. But I don't know. I just remember someone calling me that when I was small. It feels like a memory from a dream. Setly had set now. I inhaled shakily. Liam was your name. I think. You might be the son of Elliot Carter. Leo's eyes widened slowly, not with excitement, but with fear. No. That can't be right. Why not? He hugged his knees, shrinking into himself. Because if he wanted me, why didn't he find me? I gently brushed his hair aside. Maybe he tried. Maybe something happened. But Leo, if there's even a small chance this is true, we need to find him. Leo's voice trembled. But what if he takes me away? And you're alone again? And I'm alone again? The crack in his voice nearly destroyed me. I pulled him close. I won't let anything bad happen to you. If he really is your father, then we'll figure out what comes next together. I won't disappear on you. Ever. Leo rested his forehead against my arm, exhausted by a truth bigger than he was ready to hold. When he fell asleep, I sat awake in the dimly lit shelter, staring at the glowing exit sign on the wall. A billionaire father. A missing boy. A cold case. A child who appeared out of nowhere. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't imagination. This was fate knocking on a door I hadn't realized existed. And if Elliot Carter truly was Leo's father, then I had a moral responsibility to tell him, even if it meant losing the only person who had become family to me. At dawn, with Leo still clutching my sleeve in his sleep, I made the hardest decision of my life. I'm going to meet Elliot Carter. 2 days later, after gathering enough bus fare and courage, I stood at the foot of Carter Tower, the glass skyscraper piercing the clouds like a shard of frozen lightning. Leo squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt. Hannah, are we really doing this? Yes, I whispered, even though my heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Inside the marble lobby, security guards stopped us immediately. Ma'am, do you have an appointment? No, I said, but I need to speak with Elliot Carter. It's about his son. That sentence stopped the entire room. Phones lowered. Conversations halted. Even the receptionist froze mid-click. The guard's voice dropped to a whisper. His son? Yes, I said, resting a trembling hand on Leo's shoulder. I think I found him. Within minutes, we were escorted into a private waiting room, white leather chairs, frosted glass walls, a silent air so thick it made me nauseous. Leo leaned against me. I'm scared. I know, I whispered, stroking his hair. I'm scared too. Then the door opened, and Elliot Carter walked in. He wasn't what I expected. He wasn't cold. He wasn't angry. He wasn't arrogant. He looked haunted. His eyes fell on Leo first. His breath caught. And in that instant, everything, my fear, my hope, my doubt crashed together like two storms colliding, because the moment their eyes met, I knew. He recognized him. Elliot froze in the doorway, as if a ghost had materialized in front of him. His eyes stayed locked on Leo wide, disbelieving, trembling with something I had never expected to see on the face of a billionaire, pure, overwhelming grief. "Liam?" he whispered, voice cracking. Leo clutched my jacket, shrinking behind me. I swallowed. He remembers parts of his past. He remembers you. And the sings and Mars of Live, 11. And the sings and sings of Reese and Wive. For several achingly long seconds, Elliot didn't move. Then, with slow, hesitant steps, he approached us like a man afraid the slightest gesture might shatter the moment. "Liam," he repeated softly. "My son. My boy." He knelt in front of Leo, his hands shaking. But Leo did not reach out. Instead, he pressed into my side, terrified. "Do you know me?" Elliot asked gently. Leo's lips parted. "You used to read to me, in a big room, with glass walls." Elliot's face crumpled. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes. That was your favorite place." Watching them was like watching two pieces of a broken world suddenly land next to each other but not yet fitting. And then, everything broke. Elliot slowly rose to his feet and turned toward me. Something shifted in his expression, grief folding into suspicion. The warmth drained from his eyes, replaced by a sharpness that sliced through the room. "What exactly is your role in this?" he asked quietly. My heart lurched. "My role? How?" he said, stepping closer. "Did a homeless woman end up with my missing son?" Heat rushed to my face. "I didn't end up with him. I found him." "You expect me to believe that?" Elliot snapped. Leo flinched at his tone. I placed a hand on the boy's back instinctively. Protective. Elliot's jaw clenched. 2 years. 2 years without a single trace. Without a single sighting. And now, suddenly, he appears. "With you?" "I didn't kidnap him," I protested, voice cracking. "He came to me. He needed help." "Or you needed an opportunity," Elliot said coldly. The words hit me like a slap. My voice dropped. "Is that what you think of me?" "What else am I supposed to think?" he shot back. "You walked into my tower claiming to have found a billionaire's missing son. Do you know how many scams my family has faced?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But Leo's trembling kept me grounded. "He's telling the truth," I whispered. "He remembers you. He remembers the house, the car, the name, everything." "Or you coached him," Elliot replied. "That was it." My knees nearly buckled. "I would never use a child like that," I choked out. "Never." Elliot stared at me long and hard, searching my face for a lie, a motive, anything. Finally, he turned toward his assistant standing silently in the corner. "Call legal and security," he said. My blood turned to ice. "WI security? Until we confirm your identity and your intentions, neither of you is leaving this building." Leo gasped. "Hannah!" I held him tight, my heart crashing against my ribs. "Mr. Carter, please," I begged. "I didn't come here for money. I came here because this boy deserves answers, and he'll get them." Elliot cut in. "But not from you. Not until we know who you really are." His voice was stern, commanding, unyielding. It terrified me. Leo clutched my shirt, wide-eyed. "Don't take me away from Hannah, please." The desperation in his voice finally pierced Elliot's armor. He stopped. Really stopped. And for the first time, he seemed unsure. "Liam," he said softly, kneeling again. "I'm not trying to take you away. I need to protect you." Leo's tears spilled over. "Hannah protected me. Not anyone else." Elliot looked at me, really looked. The anger in his eyes trembled, wavering. Something inside him cracked. He exhaled shakily and said, "Fine, she stays. For now. But I want the truth. All of it." My relief nearly knocked the breath from my lungs. I nodded. Then sit down, I said quietly. Because the truth is longer and harder than you think. We sat together in that pristine private conference room, the billionaire, the homeless child, and the woman who somehow bridged both worlds. And I told him everything. The hospital, the shelters, the eviction, the nights on cold benches, how Leo slept holding my sleeve so he wouldn't lose me, how he remembered his father piece by piece. With each detail, Elliot's expression softened, hardened, softened again, caught between guilt, anger, and grief. By the time I finished, his eyes were glassy, his hands clasped tightly together as if holding himself upright. Leo leaned forward, small voice trembling. Daddy, I wasn't trying to run away. I couldn't find you. A single tear slipped down Elliot's cheek. He reached out, not forcefully, not possessively, but gently, and touched Leo's hand. Liam, he whispered. I never stopped looking for you. Leo broke. And so did Elliot. They folded into each other, a father clinging to a son he'd thought lost forever. I watched them, my heart aching with relief and fear all at once. Because even though I was the one who saved Leo, I suddenly realized I might be the one with the most to lose. For a moment, sitting in that glass room high above the city, watching Leo cling to his father, I felt something dangerous blooming inside my chest. Hope. But hope is fragile. And the world knows how to crush it quickly. Within an hour, Elliot's legal team arrived, polished suits, tense shoulders, eyes sharp as razors. They surrounded the table, flipping open folders as if preparing for trial. A woman named Miss Dalton Stern, precise, looked at me over her glasses. Miss Rivera, until we verify your account, you will need to remain accessible for questioning. Questioning? I echoed. I'm telling the truth. I didn't do anything wrong. She didn't soften. This situation is delicate. A missing child has been found under unusual circumstances. We will proceed carefully. The phrasing was neutral, but the implication wasn't. I was a suspect. Leo slid closer to me. Don't take Hannah away, he whispered, trembling. Dalton cleared her throat. We are not removing anyone, but we must follow protocol. Protocol. That word always seems harmless until it aims at you. The next morning, everything exploded. I woke in the shelter to dozens of notifications on an old donated phone. Headlines blared across the screen. Billionaire's missing son found? Mysterious woman appears with Liam Carter. Possible kidnapping link under review. They didn't use my name, but the silhouette photo was unmistakably me, hunched over, protecting Leo outside Carter Tower. By noon, reporters were waiting outside shelters and soup kitchens with printed photos, asking strangers, "Have you seen this woman?" Every word twisted the truth. I became the villain in their narrative, a scavenger using a child to reach a billionaire. I felt sick. I wasn't just afraid of what the world thought, I was afraid of what it would make Elliot think. As if summoned by the chaos, someone from my past crawled back into the spotlight. My ex-husband, Mark Rivera. He showed up outside the shelter wearing a smug expression I remembered all too well. Well, he said loudly, attracting attention. Looks like you finally found a way to make yourself important. I stiffened. Leave. He ignored me, stepping closer. You know, reporters have money. They'd love to hear from a bitter ex about your instability. My stomach turned. Don't do this. Oh, come on. You're homeless, dragging around a kid that isn't yours, barging into a billionaire's building. Sounds like someone desperate for a payout. Before I could reply, Leo grabbed my hand. Hannah doesn't want money. She saved me. Mark smirked. Oh? And where's your real family, kid? You sure she didn't coach you? Leo hid behind me, shaking. That was it. I stepped between them, voice low and cold. Mark, if you don't walk away right now, I will report every threatening word you just said. For the first time, he hesitated, but only for a moment. This isn't over, he snapped, before storming off. I knew exactly what he was going to do next. He was going to the media, and the media would believe the man with an address, not the woman sleeping on benches. 2 days later, I received the notice. Mandatory hearing on temporary guardianship of Liam. My heart dropped. Even though Elliot defended me, even though Leo begged not to be separated, even though I had done nothing wrong, the law had to decide where Leo should go next. And the law does not care about promises whispered in the dark. The courtroom was cold, Sterile, the kind of place designed to strip emotion from truth. Leo sat between Elliot and me, his small hands gripping mine in a death-like hold. When my name was called, I stepped forward, my entire body trembling. The judge looked at me kindly but firmly. Miss Rivera, you have been providing care for this child, but the question today is whether he should remain in your temporary custody or be transferred to Mr. Carter. My throat tightened. This was it. The moment that would define everything. Elliot rose. His voice was steady but his hands shook. Your Honor, Hannah saved my son's life. She protected him when the world didn't. I will always be grateful for that. My eyes burned. But, he continued, voice wavering, I can provide stability, security, education, and resources that she cannot. Liam is my son. I want him home. A knife twisted inside me, not because he was wrong, but because he was right. The judge nodded thoughtfully, then turned to me. Miss Rivera, do you wish to respond? I inhaled shakily. Yes, Your Honor, I do. I looked at Leo trembling, terrified, trusting me to make the right choice, and I said, I never claimed to replace his family. I never asked for money or recognition. I only asked to keep him safe, and I will continue to do that, in whatever way this court decides is best for him. Murmurs filled the room. Elliot stared at me, stunned. Leo burst into tears. Don't leave me, Hannah. My heart broke in two, cleanly and loudly. I knelt beside him, holding his hands. I'm not leaving you, I whispered. Not now, not ever. Even if we don't live in the same place, I will be in your life. I promise. The judge's voice softened. Thank you, Miss Rivera. We will take a recess before the ruling. As the gavel tapped, I realized something painful and profound. I loved Leo. More than I had ever loved anything. And now, I might lose him. As we stepped into the hallway, a detective approached Elliot with a file. Sir, we've found new evidence about Liam's disappearance 2 years ago. Elliot froze. What kind of evidence? The detective glanced at me, then at Leo. A witness has come forward. Someone who recognized a man connected to the case. I felt Leo tense, because the name the detective spoke next would blow open everything we thought we knew. The detective's voice echoed through the hallway, chilling the air around us. We found a lead. A man connected to the disappearance, identified by a witness. His name is Mark Rivera. My breath stopped. It felt like the ground split beneath me. Elliot spun toward me. Your ex-husband? I shook my head violently, stepping back. No, Mark would never. He's awful. He's selfish. But he's not capable of... But then, every memory slammed into me. Mark showing up at the shelter. Mark saying, you found yourself a golden ticket. Mark threatening to talk to the media. Mark sneering at Leo like he knew more than he said. A horrifying realization crawled up my spine. I hadn't known the man I married at all. Leo tugged my sleeve, whispering, Is he the one who took me? I don't know, I whispered, heart pounding. But the detective continued. The witness remembered seeing Mr. Rivera near the Carter estate, around the time of the abduction. He was later spotted near a rail station where Liam was last seen. I felt sick. Elliot clenched his fists, voice trembling with contained fury. Find him. Now. 2 days later, the detective called Elliot. Rivera is in custody. He wants to speak with both of you. Both of us. My stomach twisted. When we arrived at the precinct, Mark sat behind the glass of the interview room, pale, sweaty, eyes darting like a trapped animal. He smirked when he saw me. Well, he said, looks like you finally got your fairy tale ending. I glared at him. Why did you take Liam? Mark rolled his eyes. Oh, come on, I didn't take him. I just found him wandering near a park. Thought maybe you and I could use him. For leverage. My heart shattered. You used a child? You lied to me? You... Relax, he snapped. I never hurt him. I just let him go when things got complicated. Leo clutched my hand, trembling. You left me alone, he whispered. Mark shrugged. You cried too much. I'm not good with kids. That was the moment something inside me finally broke. Not out of hatred, but out of release, because the man I once loved was a stranger. A stranger responsible for 2 years of pain. The detective stepped in. Mr. Rivera, you will be formally charged with child endangerment, unlawful detainment, and obstruction in a missing child investigation. Mark paled. What? You can't, Hannah. Tell them I'm not a criminal. I looked him straight in the eyes. You made your choices. Now face them. And for the first time, I walked away from him without fear. 1 week later, we returned to the courtroom for the final ruling on Leo's custody. This time, the room felt different. The accusations were gone. The media frenzy had calmed. The truth was finally visible. The judge addressed me first. Miss Rivera, after reviewing your testimony and the newly uncovered evidence, the court acknowledges that you acted solely out of compassion and responsibility. You protected this child during a period of extreme vulnerability. Your actions are commendable. My eyes filled instantly. Then the judge turned to Elliot. Mr. Carter, as Liam's biological parent, you are granted full legal custody. A wave of emotions surged through me: relief, fear, pride, and heartbreak all at once. But the judge wasn't finished. However, it is clear that Miss Rivera plays a crucial emotional role in Liam's life. Therefore, the court grants her ongoing visitation rights and encourages shared involvement in his upbringing, as agreed upon privately by both parties. Leo squeezed my hand, his face lighting up. So, I still get to see you? He whispered. I pressed a kiss to his forehead. Always. Elliot approached me after the ruling, expression soft. Hannah, he said quietly. You're family now. Not by blood, but by choice. Months passed. Leo, now officially Liam Carter, again thrived. Therapy helped him untangle the shadows of his past. He began school, joined a reading club, grew taller, braver, happier. As for me, Elliot offered me a position at the Carter Foundation, working with programs supporting vulnerable children. I found a small apartment near the city, nothing fancy, but warm, safe, mine. Leo helped me hang curtains. Elliot brought a housewarming gift, a bookshelf. I heard you like stories, he said with a tiny smile. One afternoon, as sunlight spilled across my living room, Leo curled up beside me on the couch. Hannah? Yes, sweetheart? Do you think, maybe someday, I could have 2 families? I blinked. What do you mean? He pointed to himself. Like, one with Dad, and one with you. My throat tightened. You already do, I whispered. Leo rested his head on my shoulder. I love you, Hannah. You saved me. Tears welled up again, but this time, they were warm. And you saved me, I said softly. I used to think family was something you were born into. Now I know the truth. Family is chosen, built, fought for. It's the hand you hold in the rain. The child who trusts you when the world won't. The people who stay when everything else falls apart. I began this journey with nothing. No home, no partner, no support. But in losing everything, I found something greater. A child who saw me when I felt invisible. A father who learned to trust me. A life built not on wealth, but on love. And when Leo hugged me outside the courthouse that final day and whispered, "You're my other mom," I knew. Through every storm, every night on cold floors, every moment of doubt, this is where I was always meant to be.